When you're doing account-based selling, it's not like the traditional sales process. It takes a little bit more work, more finesse. And on today's episode, I'm going to talk to somebody who is doing this for an amazing company. You've probably heard of them, Amazon, specifically AWS. And he's going to talk about how he's doing this with two large accounts, how he's able to do the account-based selling strategy, and how it's able to help him and how it can help you as well. Hey, everyone. Welcome to another great episode of the Sales Evangelist podcast. I'm your host, Donald Kelly, the Sales Evangelist, and I'm so excited for another great episode. I'm so excited to be here with you today. And on this episode, we're going to be talking to my good friend Thomas. He has an amazing TikTok channel, and we're going to link back to that in the show notes. But Thomas, he works for Amazon Web Services, and in doing that, he worked with some pretty large accounts. I mean, some of the deals that he's closing, these deals are like, there could be the income for GDP for a small country. And the crazy part about this is that the process of making this happen is not too complicated. He's going to lay out for you some of the things that he's doing. He's sharing some amazing tips on TikTok, helping sales tech sales reps like you and me and some of these other folks listening to this podcast, how they can become more successful. And I highly recommend you connect with him there as well. Without further ado, let's go ahead and dive into the episode. I want to just pick your brain. How do we go about attacking this idea of account-based selling, and how do we become more effective at it? And in your definition, and how do you guys define that at Amazon? If you don't mind, just starting off there.
Sure, great question. So, we actually do, both type of selling models, kind of depending on what customer segment, that we're in. So the enterprise and like the named account segment, so that would fall under account-based marketing, and then we could contrast that to traditional, top-down, like lead gen funnel type marketing, where you're starting off with creating, broad awareness of the brand. Typically at that point, you're targeting like SMBs and startups. And then from there, you're generating leads, you're nurturing those, you're engaging with those leads. And then as you're working those leads, you start to identify what those high value accounts are, and then you work on converting those. So you can contrast that to account-based marketing or account-based selling, where instead of starting with broad awareness, instead you're starting off with key accounts or strategic accounts that you want to focus on instead, and then you sales strategy and your lead generation and your marketing based on that. So in this case, for example, with cloud infrastructure, the largest companies, Fortune 500s, those are going to be your biggest spenders, just because they have the largest IT footprint. And with products like AWS, for example, you don't necessarily need to generate that broad awareness, since that already kind of exists in the marketplace, especially at the enterprise level. So within Amazon, and segments, and some of these accounts are fairly large spenders, and they still have a lot of white space in there. But there are certain accounts where they were identified as key or strategic accounts, and they don't actually have any meaningful spend within the account. But it's very different than the other approach. In this case, we're working with a small set of accounts. Like in this case, I only have 2 accounts, but they're global accounts with multiple business units, multiple business segments. And then I have different outreach techniques depending on which business segment and business unit that I'm trying to target within the account.
When I'm doing account-based selling like this in this model, I have 2 accounts and I'm trying to go deeper, wider into those accounts. How do I first start? Because it's not traditional prospecting. They know who I am, but still yet it's some way it's probably still in a way that they don't know who you are. They may know the company. How do you go about making yourself known and break through that I have something of value and I'm not just the new account rep?
Yeah. So what's actually kind of key, especially with these very large accounts, developing those executive level relationships. So the bottom up approach, sometimes works for smaller companies, smaller targets, where you identify like a key engineer, they become like a champion for you, and they're able to, make the business case, and you're able to move up the account that way. But with things like cloud infrastructure, for example, you're not necessarily going to be able to drive like a ton of change if you're just working with, like a low level engineer, just because there's like thousands of them within the account. And also, the stuff that I'm working on is, it's more like strategic opportunities that are on the time span of like 1 to 3 years, from the initial prospecting to the final execution. So that's where like kind of developing those high level relationships are really important. And I think that's a piece where a lot of people don't necessarily focus on. They might, identify like a IT director or engineer. They don't go like a step higher to kind of work with the executives to find what are like the key, business drivers that are actually driving all of these different initiatives, and how can you actually influence what those initiatives are.
How much time do you spend researching for, like, if you're I mean, there's so many different departments in these accounts, but how much time do you typically spend if you were to coach somebody on this?
I would say it's probably, I don't know, at least 40% of my time is like researching, and then the rest of it is like value, putting together the value proposition and like the pitch. But definitely a lot of time is spent ahead of time doing thorough research on the account, developing those relationships, those lower level relationships, to identify what, and validate what those key drivers are within the account. So it's definitely a lot more, you want to understand the problem before you prescribe a solution approach.
Any other tips or advice when it comes towards being effective in your role as an account seller, account-based seller, that you would like to part onto a seller who's listening to this episode?
I think not only is it important to develop like the relationship with the customer, but I think on the account-based selling side, it becomes even more important to network internally within your company. So making sure that you fully understand all the different resources that you can pull in. So I end up working pretty frequently with like the people on the business development side, on the product management side, because with account-based selling, you're tailoring, the product and the solution that you're pitching, and oftentimes that requires, some additional work or some additional changes that require, internal resources. So having those relationships and nurturing those is actually really important to be successful at account-based selling. Another thing that can also help too is, but if you're at a bigger company, is that oftentimes there will be some overlap in terms of people internally within the company that actually work at your target customer. So that can be a great source of information in terms of validating what does the customer actually care about, and what a successful pitch might look like.
Hey, that was Tom. If you want to go ahead and connect with Tom, please go ahead and find all of the information down below. Please connect with him on TikTok. And also, if you're doing that, connect with me there as well. I'm not quite to Tom's level yet, but I'm working my way up there. And we would love to connect with you there. Speaking about connecting, you can also connect with me on LinkedIn and connect with Tom on LinkedIn as well. You can find me, Donald T. Kelly, and you can find Tom's information down in the show notes. Our sponsors and I had major discussions about what we can offer to our community. They like the community. They want to give back to the community. And we negotiated and came up with this great opportunity. And I would love for you to take advantage of it. If you haven't done so already, please connect with them. Take advantage of the deals. Take advantage of the offers. You can find all that information in our show notes. I just want you to succeed and thrive. If this is your first time listening to one of our podcasts, be sure to hit subscribe. If you're listening and watching this on YouTube, please go ahead and hit the subscription button as well. And hit the chime. It will notify you every time we have another episode. Listen, I'm doing this because I want to help you. I want you to succeed. I want you to find more of those ideal customers. I want you to know what to say when you reach out to them. I want you to close more deals. But most importantly, I want you to go out each and every single day and do big things. Thank you so much for watching. Hey, thanks so much for taking the time to watch this video today. If you enjoyed the content, I ask you to go ahead and hit that like button, that thumbs up at the bottom right-hand corner. Also, to make sure to subscribe if you haven't done so already. This way, we'll keep you up to date with all the latest sales strategies, latest tools, and things that are going to help you to not only find more prospects, but to close more deals. Thanks so much.